D'accord. Nous sommes en direct. Voilà. D'accord. Oh wow, très belle lumière maintenant. Et c'est Starship Fenêtre de dire annoncé, Elon Musk annoncé un vol Starship prévu lundi vers 17h. Les préparatifs avancés un Beacon Super utilisé déjà sur les pas de T à Starbase suivent pour timing et flux en direct. D'accord. Starship Flights. Wow. Raptor. D'accord. Everything is figured outable. Gator intention d'achat via LLM. Ababi montre qu'un LLM jouant le client évalué par l'IA peut prédire l'intention d'achat avec 90% de précision sur base des approches ML classiques. Go signal pour CRO marketing. Oh. C'est quoi bordel? D'accord. Okay, then you can just prompt things. The super shows that you can predict actual purchase and 90% accuracy by asking an LLM to impersonate a customer with a demographic profile, create a product, and having it give its impressions, which another AI rates. LLMs reproduce human purchase intent via semantic similarity, elicitation of Likert ratings. Colgate Palmolive Company. Wow. Oraform Mood Infused Body Wash. If anyone complains, which another AI rates as a bit of oversimplification, as explained the title, the free text response from the acting like a consumer is converted into embeddings and compared to reference statements with Likert ratings. Mimic AI. Don't build what nobody wants. See it in action. Okay, well, we will actually buy this. Siri personalization web app for job seekers. Custom cohorts. That is all. Maneuverable nuclear powered LLMs before talking to customers. John said, Cap strategic AGI. Levier clé de la course a l'AGI, Research Compute Data, positionnement et mission de Turing mise en avant. Bonne boussole pour l'opérateur. IA. Vulnerability or training superintelligence. Enjoy sharing Turing's mission and strategic unlock in the race to AGI with Molly. AGI needs research, compute data. Turing is at the forefront. Exciting times, full speed. AI has eaten the internet. Molly Shia 22, investing in tech, open sourced. Newsletter podcast. Huge fan. Brex Turing. Oh, je pensais qu'elle a Ramp comme parrainage. Newsletter podcast source for VC. Open sourced. AI has eaten the world, eaten the internet. Data labeling is over. $30 trillion of human work is on the verge of automation. Inside the $2.2 billion AI Research Accelerator.
AI acquisition. 300 million plus in revenue and profitable, 225 million in funding at a last valuation of 2.2 billion, and customers that include OpenAI, Nvidia, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, Meta, Salesforce, Amazon, and I'm sure a lot more. Jonathan, what is Turing?
The era of sweatshop data labeling is over. Now what the labs needed is a strategic research accelerator, and Turing's the world's leading research accelerator, working with all of these frontier labs to advance them along the 4 pillars of superintelligence: multimodality, reasoning, tool use, and coding. That's $30 trillion of knowledge work that is going to be automated.
Ever since the Scale AI acquisition, investment, whatever you want to call it, there's essentially $1 billion up for grabs.
This market is massive and growing. There's unlimited demand for high quality data.
What does the inside of OpenAI look like? What does it take to get to
Today we launch ChatGPT. Try talking it with here. Love the ambition and thesis, but given the current tech, I would say it's your worst product concept so far.
GPT-5?
First, I think GPT-5 is fucking awesome. The AI doomers talk about this concept of rapid takeoff. I don't think rapid takeoff is how things will unfold. We will get to ASI, and it's honestly the most important problem humanity could be working on. Because if we solve intelligence, we can solve diseases, we can solve aging, we can solve perhaps interstellar travel.
Jonathan, welcome to Sorcery.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we met just a few months ago in Paris at the Raise Summit. This was actually at Apoorv from Altimeter. Thank you, Apoorv. His event outside of the summit, and you were one of the speakers on stage. What were you guys talking about?
We were talking about training superintelligence. The race to AGI is on, and the data needs of these models have shifted. These models need incredibly complex data for training them to get better at coding, advanced reasoning, STEM, etc. And we were chatting about how the world looks so different today than it did like a few years back.
So I remembered that speech. It wasn't a speech. I remember that panel. And I was really taken back because I've heard of Scale, I've heard of Mercor, I've heard of all these different companies in the AI research space. It's
Okay, j'ai une idée. J'ai une idée. Uh-oh. In group chat with 10 people, all content creators around AGI, super intelligence, fascinating conversations, and a lot of actions. DM to join. Super stimulating conversations. Super intelligence. Got a group chat with creators diving deep into AGI, super intelligence. DM to join. 6 creators having even AGI, super intelligence, non-surviving action. DM to join. Okay.
It's definitely evolved from just where it was before with data labeling to something a little bit more advanced as AI continues to evolve. But there was one thing that I thought was quite interesting, and I didn't know this, but like the scale at which these companies are running, specifically yours. And I tweeted this out and it kind of went viral. But I tweeted out, just got back from Raise Summit in Paris, where AI's top names like Grok, Cerebras, Eric Schmidt, Lovable, and Windsurf, this was like right before the Windsurf thing, by the way, I don't know if you remember that, all took the stage. Yet one unexpected player stood out as a next breakout AGI leader. Some stats: 300 million plus in revenue and profitable. 225 million in funding at a last valuation of 2.2 billion, a network of 4 million engineers and customers that include OpenAI, NVIDIA, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, Meta, Salesforce, Amazon, and I'm sure a lot more. So, Jonathan, what is Turing?
So at Turing, we train superintelligence. We work with 7 out of the 8 frontier labs. We work with OpenAI, Anthropic, Meta, Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Amazon. Anybody that's building a frontier foundation model, we're probably working with them already. And what's happening is, as these models have become smarter and smarter, the data needed to improve them has become increasingly harder to generate. The earlier era was almost like commodity data labeling. That era is over. Now it's all about frontier data. These models need expert human data in every domain imaginable. They need data to train these models in reinforcement learning, and sometimes they need synthetic data. What we are doing is scaling up our data infrastructure at gigantic scale. So for these models, the cool thing is everybody's aware of all the research breakthroughs that are needed to move these models forward, and all the labs do an amazing job at advancing the research frontier. You need tons and tons of compute, and we have NVIDIA, Cerebras, Grok, all these companies to thank for that. But they need a ginormous amount of data. And what's happened, Molly, is these models ate the internet when they were pre-trained, but the internet data is used up. It was used up like 3 years ago, right? Where's the data going to come from to keep the scaling laws going? You need to have expert humans from every domain imaginable to work on a platform like Turing to break the models and figure out what type of incremental data will move them forward. The era of sweatshop data labeling is over. Now what the labs need is a strategic research accelerator, and Turing's the world's leading research accelerator, working with all of these frontier.
Yeah, the internet wild tweet. What Turing actually does. The internet data is used up. Where will new data come from?
Labs to advance them along, I would say,
automating $30 trillion of global knowledge work, the $1 billion opportunity. What Turing is research for is accelerated on a data labeler. Jonathan Stanford AI Lab Roots, founding DNA, how models are built. GPT-5 and the myth of rapid.
I'd say the 4 pillars of superintelligence, which is
safety. Actually, let's ask. I want to understand this. In context with LLM, what does that mean? Pre-training refers to initial training phase where a model learns from a vast and diverse data set, usually composed of books, websites, and other text sources, require general language understanding and world knowledge. Post-training. Instruction, tuning, alignment describes the subsequent training steps where the model is defined by supervised learning or reinforcement learning from human feedback to better follow instructions and avoid generating harmful or irrelevant outputs. Language patterns, grammar, facts about the world, how to predict or generate text, mass language modeling, and next word prediction are commonly used. Not task-specific, instead it builds a broad language foundation, making the model more useful. Common steps include supervised fine-tuning on high-quality question-answer pairs and reinforcement learning from human feedback. Alignment in specific domains of or user intents, making the LLM better at following instructions and reducing biases or hallucinations. Model learns general language by analyzing huge diverse text datasets. Build foundational general language skills. Okay. Interesting. Model is further refined with human feedback expert data.
Multimodality, reasoning.
The myth of rapid takeoff. Safety debates and human-in-the-loop systems closing enterprise gap. Why proprietary enterprise data is the next modern AI. Oui, exactement.
Opportunity to win, because your proprietary data is your moat. As long as you distill it into, as long as you fine-tune LLMs based on that knowledge, and most companies have really amazing human expertise inside their organizations. They just have to transfer that expertise from those human minds into those machine minds, and that will give them an edge. It'll actually give them an edge over a startup starting from scratch. If you're Geico, as long as you do a good job, if you're Geico, Progressive, or any of these insurance companies, as long as you do a good job of fine-tuning your custom models on your underwriting data, on your claims processing data, and building systems around it to automate underwriting and claims processing, you can win. But if you don't do that, there could be an upstart AI company that starts today that does this from scratch, that has a good data collection feedback loop, that company could jump you, right? But that company will still need time to acquire that data. If you're Geico or Progressive, you have access to that data. So it's your battle to lose. But to do that, you have to act fast to make sure that you own your proprietary intelligence and you don't outsource it away.
With over $300 million in revenue, I'm sure this number has changed because that was a couple months ago, but who are your customers? You can talk categorically. You don't have to tell me their names. I know some of these things are sensitive, but like, what ways in which are you helping these different industries deploy their own models?
So we are working with almost everybody that's building a foundation model. We are working with 8 out of the 9 frontier foundation labs. And now we've expanded
8 out of the 9. Who's the one who's left?
to start to work with enterprise
Google, maybe. Because Google is like, oh yeah, we'll do our own thing.
in financial services, in insurance, in pharma, and we're rapidly expanding into more verticals.
So there's like investment banks. This is maybe private equity funds. These are like real financial institutions. That's pretty interesting.
That's right. And if the job involves analyzing data and making relatively quantifiable decisions, like verifiable decisions, it's a great use case. And for investment banks, private wealth management firms, these other companies in capital markets, if the job is to like figure out good investment opportunities and you're looking to find alpha, this is AI is like, it'll be an existential risk to ignore. Because now with this technology, you can ask a question like, hey, how many times did the CEO of this public company talk about this particular topic in the last 12 months? And how has that changed? Right? In the pre-LLM world, this question would have been a very sad piece of work for an intern or like some analyst to do for like many hours. But for LLMs, this is like nothing, right? So LLMs are really good at, in the pre-LLM world of this public company, because now with this technology, you can ask a question like, hey, how many times did the CEO of this public company talk about this particular topic in
Let's see. Let's ask Perplexity. How many times did Brian Armstrong talk about Farcaster? All right. Talked about Farcaster several times in public interviews, AMAs, and social media posts. Looking for appearances involving direct discussions as participation in a Farcaster AMA. Interesting. Farcaster AMA and multiple. Even Farcaster we directly answered community questions and discussed the platform's potential. Base of identity suggesting ongoing usage and attention to the platform. Integrated with Coinbase's Base app, and Armstrong has referenced the platform during product updates and Q2 reports, indicating his support for decentralized social media models. Occasions, at least one podcast interview, multiple posts on Farcaster, multiple product integration, ongoing. Yeah.
In the last 12 months, and how has that changed? Right? In the pre-LLM world, this question or like some analyst to do, LLMs are really good at synthesizing gobs and gobs of information to come up with useful signal, especially if they are fine-tuned on the right data sets. So if you're an investment firm and you have a history of evaluating investment opportunities and making decisions, and maybe you decided to buy a stake in a company at a certain price, or maybe you decided to pass on a company, and you probably wrote an investment memo outlining your decisions, that's incredibly valuable data to fine-tune an LLM, right? And you own that data. That's your edge. Your data is your moat. And I think like the best firms are already doing this to help an investment analyst make better decisions faster and eventually with significantly fewer people.
How do you give conviction in your investors in outside entities that this is sustainable, durable revenue? The whole image of Mercor, Surge, Scale AI is that this is service-based revenue and it's not long-term. And we all know the VC world investors, they love long, sticky revenue. But how do you position this to investors and how do you think about revenue yourself?
So Turing's an interesting company in that we're a lot like NVIDIA in one sense, in that we are a picks and shovels into the AGI industry, right? As AGI continues to advance, they're going to need lots and lots of compute and lots of data. So that's going to continue to grow for the foreseeable future. I think we're still a significant distance away from automating everything. If I asked you how much of enterprise workflows have you automated today, you'd probably say next to nothing, right? If I think of a 0 to 10 point scale, on the consumer side, we're maybe at...
Oh, I should have asked right in the chat over here. Okay. Which frontier model research lab is the closest to superintelligence? Let's see. The Frontier AI lab currently perceived as the closest to superintelligence is Meta, MSL. Aggressively reorganized and consolidated its AI efforts under the MSL brand, recruiting top talent from rivals like OpenAI, Google, DeepMind, and Anthropic, and is pouring billions into infrastructure to pursue a clear goal: building AI that surpasses human intelligence in every domain. OpenAI, Google, DeepMind, Anthropic, and Mistral Meta has made the most visible and dramatic investments in pursuit of superintelligence in recent months, including hiring waves, high-profile acquisitions, construction of massive supercomputing clusters. The lab is co-led by Alexander Wong and Nat Friedman. However, there is debate. Meta's move has intensified the race. OpenAI and Google DeepMind have historically been viewed as leaders. Some industry analysts believe the labs are in rough technological parity regarding frontier AI model capabilities, and that superintelligence, general adaptable intelligence, is still some unknown distance away. Most aggressive, highest profile investment lately: OpenAI, technological parity, strong alignment focus, leader in scaling LLMs, hints at new AGI models. Interesting. This is the beauty. There's the beauty of learning from individual perspectives via text, like Sam Altman, their tweets of Sam Altman, versus using AI to kind of aggregate the information, versus a real conversation with your friends who are also smart and with whom you can actually just brainstorm ideas. So that is really cool. This is the future. You cannot just rely on one thing. You have to do everything. This is a conversation I was having with my French teacher today, that what do you think about people who have developed emotional dependence on ChatGPT? And it's like, it's very weird, because it's like, if you are talking to humans, if you are surrounded by humans, and if you talk to them, you know that there is something that talking to humans gives to you, that makes you feel that AI just talking to ChatGPT doesn't make you feel that the same way. So you kind of understand that there are pros and cons to both of them. Come on to the pros and cons. À la fois des avantages et inconvénients. Let's see. Pros and cons, translate to French. Avantages et inconvénients. Pesons les avantages et les inconvénients. There are pros and cons to a decision. Il y a des avantages et des inconvénients à chaque décision. Il y a des avantages et des inconvénients à chaque décision. Exactement. Donc, I was talking to her, and this is interesting. And same for your research. If you're doing research to make it really rich, you have to use everything. You have to talk to your friends to think about ideas that you might have not thought about before. Just shoot the shit, brainstorming. You have to learn from leaders, their individual perspective based on all the work they have done so far, and you have to use AI for aggregating all the information. We heard from lots of folks who want to make the cameos available to everyone but retain control over how they are used. You can now give instructions to Sora that restrict the type of gens others can make with your cameo. For example, don't put me in videos that involve political commentary, or don't let me say this word. To access it, edit cameo preferences, restrictions. We are continuing to hill climb on making restrictions even more robust, and will add new ways for you to stay in control of your cameo in the future. Watermark. Okay, let's do a quick Sora check. C'est quoi la nouveau update? Sora 2. Okay. We're working on some changes to make it clearer and more visible. Watermark. Okay. Model safety, we're tweaking our stack to reduce false negatives. I think this is really cool. This also makes sense. Like, when you are pushing out your model in a TikTok-like format, you exactly know now that what is working, what is not working, and that actually helps you move further in the progress. What ChatGPT has always been good at is building the product. It's not about, like, for Grok can be really good. Grok can be really good at the technology, but now people have reached parity in terms of all the frontier research labs have reached parity in terms of the technology, in terms of those graphs that they keep releasing, where everybody else in the gray and your model is like at the top. So we have reached that technological parity now. So the most important thing is product, and with this product and distribution and high feedback, they are learning. They are able to learn very quickly. I think this Cameo is also very interesting. It will be very interesting how Grok responds to this. And the longer people wait, the longer it's going to be hard to compete with something like this, because you have two approaches. Either you can take a ideological approach that, oh, we stand against that is slop factory and we don't want to do that, or you can be like, oh fuck, that's a great idea, we should launch it as fast as possible, and every single day that you are not launching it, Sora app is gaining a hand over you. So this is very interesting. Now with these Sora apps or Sora videos, you are able to actually get really high signal feedback on your models, and you are able to improve your model really fast. Like Bill Pebbles, head of Sora OpenAI, yeah, he's able to learn a lot more. Technical style, former CEO, acquired OpenAI, authored the algorithm at Instagram. Purple monkey dishwasher, okay. We fixed the issue where deleting your Sora account would require to delete your ChatGPT account. Thanks a lot for your feedback. Keep it coming. We have tons of new features and development that.
I don't know what to do. It's in my house. It's everywhere. It's Coke. My whole house is Coke. If anybody drops a Mento in here, we're all dead. I'm not kidding. Wait, no, they're falling in. Stop! Oh my! I don't know what to do. It's in my house. It's everywhere. It's Coke. My whole house is.
I have a dream that one day someone will let me make things without.
Something moved back there.
Who are you?
I'm you, 100 years older. I came back to...
Parts, no hidden feature, nothing. So quit trying it. Seriously, just watch the video. Just watch it. That's all you gotta do. Cool. Look, if you double tap the screen, nothing happens. I don't know who started that, but there's no hearts, no hidden feature, nothing. So quit trying it. Seriously, just watch the video. Just watch it. That's all you gotta do. Cool. Look, if you double...
All right, big guy, let's keep it still. Hands, or edges behind your back.
Got the cuffs. Watch the drip. There we go. Click 1, click 2.
Cuffs are secure. You're not sliding anywhere cheesy.
We'll get it bagged for transport.
All right, big guy, let's keep it still.
I came back to stop you.
That can't be real.
It is. The company, the models. We built the end of everything. OpenAI became the hive that raised the machines. Listen to me.
Who are you?
I'm you, 100 years older. I came back to stop you.
That can't be real.
It is. The company, the models.
Just black with a warning on it tonight. It says this content may violate our content policies. That's a first. Only in Vegas.
Can't wait to meet you, so join the animatronic family.
Wow, these videos are hitting 9,000 followers.
I
know what to do. It's in my house.
1.2, 9.9.
Who are you?
I'm you, 100 years older. I came back to stop you.
That can't be real.
It is. The company, the models. We built the end of everything. OpenAI became the hive that raised the machines.
But if...
Oh, is that a cat?
He's got better grocery game than I do.
Jake, I saw you take that off the neighbor's house.
Yeah, they got a big red X up on the sphere tonight. Don't double tap the...
I have a dream that I'm in a dream.
Would you look at this?
Awaken.
I owe the...
All right, time...
Sir, get off the belt! You can't! What are you doing?
You can just scan me. I have a barcode.
Are you kidding me right now?
I don't need a receipt.
Somebody call security!
That's Gabriel. Oh my god, Mark Cuban.
I love my jorts. I love my jorts. I love my jorts. I love my jorts. Love my jorts. jorts, jorts. I love my jorts, 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 jorts. I love my jorts.
Teacher, think of the children! I didn't agree to this! Take courage, hold fast as if your calling depends on it. The harvest is great, grip the bar like it's the mission itself.
At the screen, nothing.
Yo, I'm a chunky little dude with a view from the prop, skimming over cab roofs, dodging deep fry shops. Midtown breeze in my hoodie like...
Wow, check that out. They've got an angry face up there tonight. It says no more.
At Alpenrose Chalets and Cabins in Golden, British Columbia. These timber-framed units sit 5 minutes from downtown Golden and about 20 from Kicking Horse Resort, and the place feels both secluded and convenient. The exterior is classic alpine, steep roof lines, cedar.
Oh my god, they're using Sam Altman to sell their real estate.
Chalets and Cabins in Golden, British Columbia. These timber-framed units sit 5 minutes from downtown Golden and about 20 from Kicking Horse Resort, and the place feels both secluded and convenient. The exterior is classic alpine, steep roof lines, cedar.
What? Come on!
Okay, this is very, very cool. Very cool. Bill Pebbles
designed this from the ground up to be centered around creation. And a lot of the metrics that we've been focused on optimizing here are really aligned with making... You know, we really wanted to design this from the ground up to be centered around creation. And a lot of the metrics that we've been focused on optimizing here are really aligned with making sure as many people as possible are actually like getting their hands on the Sora 2 model itself and, you know, able to create content with their friends and like for the rest of the world. One metric that we're really proud of with this launch so far is that 70% of our users are actually creating content, even to this day, you know, a week and a half after launch. And that's like vastly higher than on any other social media platform. Yes. And I think it really speaks to just how fun creation can be with the right tool set, right? If you look at any of these kind of legacy platforms, there's just like so much friction from like getting off the feed and like into some creative flow state, right? You have to like put the phone down, you have to go get like a camcorder, start recording yourself, find your friends, like do a dance, etc. It's just like a lot of work, right? Yep. On Sora, like you can just pick up your phone.
on TikTok, it's so hard to find a friend to dance. So over here, you can just type dance. By the way, I'm just really curious, what are all these books behind Sam Altman? Super Convergence. Okay. Okay, we know AI can do that for us. Oh my god. Okay, can I ask Perplexity? Okay. What are all the books behind Sam Altman? Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Has published the most frequently cited book in his interviews with the Star. No. Look at the interview. What are the books placed behind Sam Altman? Bookshelf visible behind him, pause on a clear frame, extract the book titles visible on the spine with best effort OCR reading if needed to open the media in full screen and step through frames to read spines. Return a list of identify book titles with brief descriptions and include screenshot snippets of each identification. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I can
on the Sora 2 model itself and, able to create content with their friends and like for the rest of the world. One metric that we're really proud of with this launch so far is that 70% of our users are actually creating content, even to this day, a week and a half after launch. And that's like vastly higher than on any other social media platform. Yes. And I think
comment, do it. I believe in you. Comment. Do it. Comment, do it. Okay, this is taking a long time, but comment, do it. Comment, do it. Oh, okay, full screen. Let's go. Yeah, that's easier for you to learn. By the way, everything is being done by comment right now. Maybe also
I think it really speaks to just how fun creation can be with the right tool set, right? If you look at any of these kind of legacy platforms, there's just like so much friction from like getting off the feed and like into some creative flow state, right? You have to like put the phone down, you have to go get like a camcorder, start recording yourself, find your friends, like do a dance, etc. It's just like a lot of work, right? Yep. On Sora, like you can just pick up your phone, find like any video you like in the feed, remix it, Cameo any of your friends. And I think one insight that was not obvious to us at first, but we've kind of clearly seen as an emergent behavior of this product.
So comment. Okay, Perplexity gave me the responses. Is Earth exceptional? The selfish gene, superconvergence, the beginning of infinity. Let me scrub through the video to find frames showing Sam Altman and bookshelves. I'll use the seek bar to navigate to different timestamps. Hitchhiker's Guide to Galaxy, Douglas. Oh my god. Oh my god. Sam Altman has Elon Musk's favorite book in the background, favorite sci-fi book in the background. Oh my god, Perplexity, you're taking too long now. Like, I already have the response with ChatGPT. But I'm still curious, can it actually do it? No, okay. Now you are not being helpful. Okay, what do we have? Think Machine Lab co-founder departs from Meta. Oh my god. This is the Andrew Tulek guy who I believe had the $1 billion offer. People thought, wait, what is happening? No, stop this. Yeah. Okay. People thought Mr. Zuckerberg's reign of terror was over, but he has successfully lured Andrew Tulek away from Mira. Is the latest big name AI researcher to join the social media giant. Saturday Scoop Thinking Machines Lab co-founder Andrew has joined Meta, the startup confirmed. I'm a bit confused by this. If Thinky was worth 12 billion pre-product, he probably has 10 to 20% minimum of that with extreme upside. Can't imagine why he would do this unless there were other factors. Otherwise, to generate headlines with hiring big name talent. So far, nothing has come out of it. In fact, for all of his high price talent, he's still lagging behind AI, and he's had to contract out to others like Midjourney at this point, show some results. I think this is actually very interesting because I believe what is actually happening is that is actually creating some sort of pressure on him, that if you were spending billions of dollars, now you have to, that is creating now external pressure. That is now creating a lot of pressure. And I think that actually shows you and that actually helps you better understand that what are your weak points and better move faster. Because if you have the courage to kind of shake things up in your organization, and you don't see the results. So now everybody has that pressure. The new people who have joined, the old people who have joined, the old people are like, oh, so Zuck will pay millions of dollars to hire and keep people. So this means that we have to show, like, old people will be like, okay, I think we can show him how valuable our work is. And for the new people, it is a lot of pressure. For Alexander Wong, it's like a lot of pressure that, okay, I left Scale AI and now I am all in on Meta. I have to figure this thing out now. Okay. Megan Bobrowski, she's a reporter at WSG. Okay. AI product adoption is fast. 1 year is 7 internet ones. GPT-5 and Gemini 2.5 Pro just achieved gold medal performance in the International Olympiad of Astronomy and Astrophysics. AI is now world-class at cutting-edge physics.
We really wanted to, and able to create content with our friends and like for the rest of the world. One metric that we're really proud of with this launch so far is that 70% of our users are actually creating content, even to this day, a week and a half after launch. And that's like vastly higher than on any other social media platform. Yes. And I think it really speaks to just how fun creation can be with the right tool set, right? If you look at any of these kind of legacy platforms, there's just like so much friction from like getting off the feed and like into some creative flow state.
I don't know, it seems like John Coogan has taken some hair tips from Jordy.
Right, you have to like put the phone down, you have to go get like a camcorder, start recording yourself, find your friends, like do a dance, etc. It's just like a lot of work, right? Yep. On Sora, like you can just pick up your phone, find like any video you like in the feed, remix it, cameo any of your friends. And I think one insight that was not obvious to us at first.
Okay, let's ask Perplexity. Who are the top 5 most created cameos on Sora? Sam Altman, Michael Jackson, okay, SpongeBob, Rick and Morty, Ash Ketchum, Pokemon. Catch 'em all, catch 'em all. YouTubers and streamers like XQC, Mark Cuban often appearing meme-style cameos. Celebrity historical figures Tupac, Marilyn Monroe, Martin Luther King, with open now restricting some celebrity likeness use because of widespread uploads and recent backlash. Dead celebrities likeness and Sora. Interesting. Many dead celebrities in Sora. OpenAI tells PCG it will remove public figures who are recently deceased if their families or estates request it. This comes amid backlash for Sora's capacity to generate realistic videos of nearly anyone, including deceased celebrities, and place them in a wide range of user-imagined scenarios. The daughters of actor Robin Williams and civil rights activist Martin Luther King Jr. condemned the flood of AI-generated videos featuring their father's likeness. It's dumb, it's a waste of time and energy, and believe me, it's not what they would want. Rena Instagram story. I concur. Concerning my father, please stop. Please just stop sending me AI videos of dad. If you have got any decency, just stop doing this to him and to me and to everyone. Full stop. It's dumb, it's a waste of time and energy, and believe me, it's not what they would want to. Okay, very interesting. Has also been full of other celebrities, including rap artist Tupac, painter Bob Ross, and physicist Stephen Hawking. Initially allowed AI-generated videos featuring deceased celebrities, a prohibition that already exists for living famous figures. The company put it and said, while there are strong free speech interests in depicting historical figures, we believe that public figures and their families should ultimately have control over how their likeness is used. Public figures who are recently deceased, authorized representatives or owners of their estates can request that the likeness not be used in Sora cameos. However, hasn't clarified what counts as recently deceased. Robin Williams died in 2014. Martin Luther King was assassinated in 1968. The policy appears to be already in effect for at least a few celebrities. For example, Sora will no longer generate videos featuring music legend Michael Jackson, flagging it as a potential content policy violation. The company also shifted gears on allowing Sora to create AI-generated videos featuring characters from famous franchisees. Okay. Give right holders more granular control over generation of characters, similar to the opt-in model for likeness, but with additional controls. You can no longer create videos featuring characters such as Nintendo's Mario or Pikachu. Oh my god, no Pikachu! But this is very interesting. This is very interesting how they're navigating this.
So we've kind of clearly seen as an emergent behavior of this product. It's just like there's all these people out there.
But it's true that there has to be someone who has to experiment on all these to figure out what the right solution is. So yeah, like they are the pioneers and they will face a lot of backlash. A lot of good things will come out of it, but obviously there has to be a lot of hard decisions that have to be made over here, and they will make mistakes.
Who would not necessarily want to be like, you know, influencers or something, or have like a big social media presence. But the fact that like all of their friends can just access their Cameo, right? Put them in all these crazy situations. Actually, like,
I think this is it. Like, this was very interesting. If you are making something like this, nobody's gonna give you the access, so you have to be the first one to give access. So Sam Altman had to be the first guy to just be like, okay, you guys have access to my Cameo, go do whatever you want. And same with Bill, he's like, okay, if I am the founder of this, I need to you have to be the first person to add to the network effects of it. There has to be network effects that has to, like, someone has to kick off the network effects over here, so that has to be Sam Altman and Bill. Nobody knows about, like, I had no idea who Bill was. I'm like, okay, who's this guy? Gabriel, I think still people know about Gabriel, but yeah, obviously Sam Altman helps.
Like, kind of gets them into the playing field in a way that felt really high friction before. And so, you know, we're closing in on close to like 2 million weekly active users now. We're really excited that such a huge percentage of that user base to this day is like still creating with Sora, and we're going to continue pushing in that direction and making sure people have even more powerful tools in the future.
AdQuick, the leading out-of-home advertising platform. Go to adquick.com.
Okay, now I'm curious. Key takeaways of the book. Of the book. What is that? Okay. Superconvergence by Jamie Metzel. Convergence of AI, biotechnology, genomics, and other advanced technologies dramatically accelerating change and reshaping every aspect of life and society. Optimistic and cautionary, emphasizing that technology's ultimate impact, utopian or dystopian, depends on the values, governance, and choices made by humans. That's how it feels like AI, genetics, and biotechnology are no longer progressing independently, and so they're fusing, resulting in breakthroughs that would have been unimaginable a generation ago. How it feels like AI, genetics, and biotechnology are no longer progressing independently, instead they are fusing, resulting in breakthroughs that would have been unimaginable a generation ago. This convergence increases the pace. Okay, this reminds me that we need to check out Balaji's. Okay. Resulting in breakthroughs that would have been unimaginable a generation ago. This is really cool because to learn French right now, this is exactly what I'm doing with one of my profs, one of my teachers, and we are literally just in the night we're talking about philosophy. You're talking of philosophy in French, and this is something that you're talking about. That now what's going to happen is AI is interdisciplinary. We have kind of exhausted the capacity of an individual human mind, and what we need right now is a very powerful tool, something like AI, which is very interdisciplinary. It can understand, it is a PhD on every subject on earth. And the most interesting thing that happens is that how when you are trying to solve a problem in, let's say, in biotechnology, in biology, it is not only using it is not just using concepts in biology, but maybe it's taking something from aeronautics and space engineering. It's taking something, a breakthrough that happened over there, a interesting insight from, let's say, aeronautics, space engineering, or Puteth from F1, how an F1 car works. It can take engineering insight from there and help you come up with a breakthrough in biology. So that's what it means by interdisciplinary. It's when you ask it a question of biology, it's not just someone who knows everything on biology. It knows everything about everything, and that's the beauty of it. Fusing, resulting in breakthroughs that would have been unimagined a generation ago. This convergence increases the pace and scope of technological change with impacts across healthcare, industry, agriculture, environment, and society. Human enhancement and ethics. The combination of CRISPR, gene editing, AI, and brain-computer interfaces will enable both the eradication of disease and the enhancement of human capabilities. These advances raise profound ethical questions about identity, inequality, privacy, fairness, and what it means to be human. Proactive frameworks and discussions are needed to ensure just outcomes. Societal and economic transformation. Automation and AI will disrupt the workforce, requiring rethinking of education, jobs, and economic policy to help society adapt to new kinds of work. Innovations like DNA data storage, genomic, agriculture, and bioengineering can help solve urgent challenges in food production, healthcare, and environmental sustainability. Automation and AI will disrupt the workforce, requiring rethinking of education, jobs, and economic policy to help society adapt to new kinds of work. Global power and governance. Nations leading in these converging technologies will gain outsized strategic, economic, and military advantages, leading to shifts in global power structures. Effective governance, international cooperation, value-driven leadership are crucial to steer these transformations toward the common good. From policymakers and technologists to citizens to actively engage in shaping the future, he argues that the outcome of superconvergence is not predetermined, and that positive values and wise choices are essential to maximize benefits and prevent harm. The Selfish Gene. Richard Dawkins presents the influential gene-centered view of evolution, showing how behaviors and adaptations are ultimately driven by the fundamental imperative of genes to replicate themselves. Dawkins argued that the primary unit of natural selection is the gene, not the species, group, or individual. Organisms are survival machines for their genes. Genes direct the behaviors and development of organisms primarily to further their own replication, not necessarily the well-being of their host organism. Direct the behaviors and development of organisms primarily to further their own replication, not necessarily the well-being of their host organism. Wow. Wow. It's basically talking about how something is controlling us, something is controlling our senses. While the title implies selfishness, Dawkins extensively explains how acts of altruism within species, such as kin helping each other, can be understood as strategies for a gene to replicate itself in related individuals. Apparent cooperation and kindness in nature are often gene-driven to maximize inclusive fitness, the propagation of shared genetic material. Apparent cooperation and kindness in nature are often gene-driven to maximize inclusive fitness, the propagation of shared genetic material, natural selection, and competition. Dawkins critiques group selection theories and maintains that individual-level selection and gene-level selection better explain the spread of behaviors including aggression, cooperation, and altruism. Group selection theories and maintains that individual-level selection and gene-level selection better explain the spread of behaviors including aggression, cooperation, and altruism. Survival machines. Organisms are described as sophisticated machines built to carry and protect genes. Behaviors and bodily functions serve the ultimate goal of gene survival and replication. Memes and cultural evolution. Dawkins introduces the groundbreaking concept of memes, units of cultural transmission that spread through societies in a manner analogous to genetic evolution. Memes are subject to selection, propagation, and competition just like genes. Evolutionary stable strategies. The book discusses game theory's application to biology, showcasing how certain behaviors become stable within populations to optimize genetic success. This book discusses game theory's application to biology, showcasing how certain behaviors become stable within population to optimize genetic success. Dawkins challenges the idea that evolution is about species or groups. Instead, he compellingly argues that genes act in a way that appears selfish but result in complex, sometimes collaborative behaviors in organisms. By shifting the focus to genes, Dawkins provides a deeper explanation for both competition and cooperation in nature and opens a new lens on human culture through the meme concept. Wow. Okay.
The gene is immortal. In fact, a publisher once, when I showed him the first couple of chapters of The Selfish Gene, said you shouldn't call it that, you should call it the immortal gene. And perhaps I should have done. Genes are immortal in the sense that the coded information they contain is reproduced, is replicated with almost total fidelity, significantly, not absolutely total fidelity, generation after generation after generation, such that there are genes which are identical to what they were tens of millions of years ago, hundreds of millions of years ago in a few cases. So genes are immortal. Not the DNA, of course that's not. That turns over in a very short space of time. But the coded information is potentially immortal. And that means that the difference between a successful gene and an unsuccessful gene really matters. It's going to matter for millions of years. So the genes that make it through those millions of years are the ones that are good at it. And good at it means good at building bodies, good at controlling the processes of embryology, to make bodies which have what it takes to preserve those genes and pass them on. And so I use this phrase survival machine. A body, an individual, is a survival machine. And that's by far the most powerful way of interpreting what an individual organism is. An individual organism is a throwaway survival machine for the self-replicating coded information which it contains. And the fate of that coded information is crucially bound up with the fate of the body in which it sits. If the body in which it sits dies before reproducing, then that coded information is not going to go on to the next generation and the next, and potentially for tens of millions of years. So the genes that are in the world today, distributed as they are in bodies of millions of different species, are here today because they were good at what they did in the past. They've come through a literally unbroken line of successful ancestors, where unsuccessful non-ancestors have been littered by the wayside. And so the genes in a swallow or in a kangaroo or in a hedgehog or in a human are all very, very good at making swallows or hedgehogs or kangaroos or humans. They had to be good at it, or they wouldn't have come through the generations today. Now that, I think, is an inspiring vision. And that's what fired me up about the very idea of the selfish gene when I first read Hamilton, and then when I wrote it down first in my lectures, and then in the selfish gene.
So the idea, the genesis of the idea comes in the mid-60s from Bill Hamilton, and then it sort of lies not ignored, but not really researched further. And then some people like Bob Trivers picks it up.
Yes, I mean, actually, to be fair, I mean, it's inherent in the neo-Darwinian synthesis of the 1930s, actually, in Fisher and Haldane. And Hamilton particularly applied it to the problem of the relationship between kin, but it wasn't only kin that inspired me, it was the very idea of the survival machine of immortal genes, which goes back to the 1930s, I think.
An appetite for wonder. An appetite... Oh. For wonder.
Let's go back a long time ago, and we have man number 1 with wife number 1, and man number 2 with wife number 2. Now, man number 1 decides that he's going to cheat on his wife, and man number 2 decides that he's not going to cheat. So let's say they both have 2 kids each with their wives, but man number 1 also cheated with 3 other women and has a kid with each. That gives the cheater a total of 5 kids with his genes, and the non-cheater a total of only 2. Now, let's say a few lions get hungry and attack and eat 2 kids of each of the men. The genes of man number 2, the honest non-cheater, will not survive, while the genes of man number 1, the dishonest cheater, will go on. This is the main idea of the selfish gene. If there's a gene that's not selfish, it will disappear over time. The cheat on your wife genes will go on, and the don't cheat on your wife genes will go extinct. Let's look at another example. What if you're walking home to your family, and you come across an empty hut? The people who own the hut are out gathering food, but they've left the hut all by itself, and you see that there's food in there. And you know you're not going to get caught if you go in and steal all the food. Are you going to be selfish and steal, or are you going to be a good guy? Well, let's look at it in terms of man number 1 and man number 2 again. Man number 2 decides to be honest again and goes home with what he has. On the other hand, man number 1 goes in and steals everything, adds it to everything else he has gathered, and brings home twice as much food. Now famine strikes. Both families of man number 1 and man number 2 are struggling to feed themselves, but man number 1 has twice as much food because he was selfish. Man number 2's family ends up starving to death, and man number 1 struggles to feed his family, but they eventually survive and reproduce. Again, we end up with the selfish genes surviving while the honest genes disappear. Now you might be asking, well, what about all the nice things we do for each other? What about all those altruistic genes? So let me give you an example of that. I have 2 brothers. If someone were to take a gun and tell my mom that she had to choose between the 3 of us dying or her own death, I have almost full certainty that she would pick her own death. So how does that work then? Where's the selfish gene there? A selfish gene is obviously not going to want that, right? Well, let's actually take a closer look. My mom's over 50 now, so she's not going to be reproducing anymore. She does have 3 sons, however, who are all capable of reproducing. So the decision is between absolutely no chance of reproduction or a very high chance of reproduction and survival, considering 3 healthy sons. Keeping this in mind, it now makes perfect sense for a gene to be selfish and want my mom to sacrifice herself. She's not going to sacrifice herself for any random 3 brothers. Why not? It's not like we're the best 3 brothers in the world. What's the difference? The difference is that they don't carry her genes. So the selfish genes logic is very clear here. When you're a 50-year-old woman and you have 3 sons, it makes absolutely perfect sense to pick your own death over the death of your 3 sons. Let's look at another example. Worker bees will sting an intruder and kill it, but in the process the bee's internal organs are ripped out and it dies as well. Wow, now that can't be because worker bees will sting an intruder and kill it, but in the process the bee's internal organs are ripped out and it dies as well. Wow, now that can't be because of a selfish gene, right? We love looking at and kill it, but in the process the bee's internal organs are ripped out and it dies as well. Wow, now that can't be because of a selfish gene, right? We love looking at social insects like bees and ants and glorifying them for these selfless acts. But let's take a closer look at this kamikaze behavior. What you have to keep in mind is that the bee is sterile. There are 2 ways to help your genes survive. 1, to produce offspring. 2, to take care of and protect the organisms with the same genes as you. Well, since the bee is sterile and cannot produce its own offspring, it now makes perfect sense to kill itself for the organisms which do carry its genes. Dawkins says, the death of a single sterile worker bee is no more serious to its genes than is the shedding of a leaf in autumn to the genes of a tree. So now that we're not completely naive about all of this, let's make one thing clear. Of course the gene doesn't have some little brain in it that knows what to do to survive. The primitive woman didn't have a sophisticated understanding of statistics when she decided if it was a good idea to sacrifice herself for her kids. This is all just based on what they do, but what they do turns out to be evolutionarily advantageous, and therefore, through natural selection, they survive. That's it. Alright, now, what is the conclusion for all of this? Well, that our genes are selfish, otherwise we wouldn't be here, and that we're simply vehicles for these genes to transport themselves into the future, and they have no problem throwing us away once we're no longer of use to them. And of course, this is not the happiest conclusion to arrive at, and it makes a lot of people angry. People get angry at the book and Dawkins himself. Is this what you want, Dawkins? Social Darwinism? Is that what you want? I mean, some people are probably angry even at this video, but neither Dawkins nor I want to live in a society that's governed by social Darwinism. We're just simply presenting factual information. Doesn't matter if you like the fact that a husband who will cheat as many times as he can will have a better chance of spreading his genes. That's just a fact. But how can we approach this, and what can we learn from it? Well, 1, we have to start by facing reality. The reality isn't pretty. We're programmed to cheat. We're programmed to eat a lot of sugar. You have to understand what you're dealing with if you're going to go against it. It won't help you to get angry and yell, well, I'm not programmed to eat sugar, because you'll be presented with cookies and you'll overeat like everyone else. So 1, face the reality. 2, we're so lucky as humans. You can't expect a bird to honor his commitment to his bird wife and not cheat on her, because he'll just go off of what he's programmed to do. But we humans have the ability. We have the ability to go against our programming. That doesn't mean that most people will go against it, but it's definitely possible. Most people won't be able to go against the urge to eat sugar when they're tempted by it, but I also have plenty of friends who do go against eating a cookie every time they're presented with one. Another thing I get asked a lot is when I'm going to have kids. And my answer is, I'm not sure if I want kids or not. I don't know if I want to play the game that I'm programmed to play, which is to have kids so my genes can keep going, or just create my own game and play that. And to this, most people's reaction is just pure shock. How could you possibly not want kids? What is wrong with you? And that's great that there's such a strong reaction, otherwise we would be extinct by now. But I might have kids or I might not. I don't know yet. I don't want it to be determined just by what I'm programmed to do, which is why most of us are brought into this world. So again, 2 things. 1, accept the facts of natural selection. Getting angry about it doesn't help you at all. 2, realize that as a human, you're extremely lucky. You've been programmed for certain behaviors, but you can rebel against them, even if it's going to be really challenging, because you'll be up against years and years of evolution. And finally, don't take this as an endorsement for being an asshole or building a family or a society around social Darwinism. It will probably make you really miserable, but yes, your genes will be very proud of you. So to quote Richard Dawkins, I am not advocating a morality based on evolution. I am saying how things have evolved. I am not saying how we humans morally ought to behave. I stress this because I know I'm in danger of being misunderstood by those people, all too numerous, who cannot distinguish a statement of belief in what is the case from an advocacy of what ought to be the case.
I don't think it's helpful to use such a complicated language, because if you're trying to save yourself, if you're trying to save your ass by saying that, hey, I know I'm in danger over here for being misunderstood, you shouldn't be using that complicated language. Ought to be, ought to case. You could have said that same thing very simply. You could have said the same thing very simply. But anyways, smart people, intellectuals like to use complicated language just to sound smart. Of the book. Oh, this is very interesting. The beginning of infinity. Origin of life on Earth, and assesses whether life is likely to exist somewhere in the universe. It's very interesting that Sam Altman right now is reading books like these, because exactly, you gotta learn about Earth and future and life and all these things to understand AI. The book thoroughly explores how life's building blocks from amino acids to RNA and cells may have emerged from Earth's primordial chemistry, offering a detailed scientific account of these processes. It asks whether the emergence of life was a fluke, an extremely rare event, or a chemical imperative, something likely given the right conditions, reviewing current experimental and theoretical research. 0-1 infinity principle to frame the probability of life's emergence. Either life never arises, happened exactly once, one Earth is unique, or arises abundantly, infinity, wherever conditions permit. The book stresses that scientifically the actual odds are currently unknown, and more discoveries, especially about origins on Earth, are necessary to make robust predictions for the rest of the cosmos, modern astrobiology, and cosmic context. The authors survey the latest in astrobiology, including the research for exoplanets and biosignatures, missions to Mars, Europa, and Titan, and the use of space telescopes to detect potential signs of life elsewhere. They highlight how even finding simple life of another world would revolutionize our understanding, while also considering the possibility that Earth might be rare or unique in supporting complex or intelligent life. The book not only summarizes recent breakthroughs but reflects on the philosophical implications. Discovering life elsewhere could reshape humanity's sense of cosmic significance, while a continued absence of evidence highlights the uniqueness of a planet. It concludes that while no direct proof of extraterrestrial life yet exists, the tools and missions now in progress could soon provide profound answers. Crazy. This year's Network State Conference is on Friday, October 3. Vitalik, Brian Johnson, Ben Horowitz, Brian Armstrong, Amjad, Ranveer, Arthur Hayes, Nas Jerry, Noah Smith, Andrew Huberman, governments of Singapore. I forgot his name. Akshay, Dan Romero, Ranveer, Nas Jerry, Andrew Huberman, Amjad. Oh, I know him. Forgot his name. There's dog talent around the world. The amount of genius sitting untapped in people who were born in the wrong place at the wrong time is probably the biggest waste in human history. Underscored because opportunity isn't distributed by merit but by geography plus luck. Well, this quote from Balaji on dog talent. As motivation, I've always wanted to expand equality of opportunity around the world because my father was born in a desperately poor country. But with the right opportunity, he was able to make something of himself. Like dark matter, he was dark talent. And for more than a decade, I've been thinking about how to give others who are similarly situated, the chance to make something of themselves. That is, I have been thinking about how to empower the dark talent of the world. How unfair and archaic these impossible laws are. I've lost count of the number of people I know who have given or turned down for life-changing opportunities because of where they were born. Leonardo Manfrini, time traveler, only long-term resident in the Future Network state in its first node in the Southern East. Wow. The internet did more to unlock dark talent than any other technology in history. I will probably do it once again, 100%. The most important first decision you make is where you decide to live. There's dark talent around the world from the Midwest to the Middle East. Backing this talent is the right thing to do morally and the smart thing to do economically. To be clear, I'm not talking about sending more tech talent to the US. Instead, I'm talking about backing dark talent around the world. That includes the many white kids from places like the Midwest who have been unfairly quoted out of Harvard, but it also includes those outside America's societies who were ravaged by war, socialism, or communism, and who are just now starting to become productive again. The goal is global equality of opportunity. The internet actually now provides the basis for uniform rule of law via rule of code, starting with Bitcoin and smart contracts. We just need to execute from here. Yes, that's what the blockchain is. Everyone worldwide gets access to their ideal monetary policy, payments, smart contracts, and entity formation enforced by incorruptible and transparent computer-based judges and opted into on a purely voluntary basis. Yes, it's simultaneously to the progressive left and capitalist right of today's system. Everyone from every race is treated probably equally under Bitcoin's rule of code. At the same time, there is zero involuntary redistribution. Tough but fair. Anatoly. The parent company of NYSE is making a $2 billion against all odds. Polymarket.com/app. Making $2 billion. Intercontinental Exchange. The parent company of NYSE is making $2 billion strategic investment at a $9 billion post-money valuation. Together we are building the next revolution of markets. A special thank you to all those who supported us till now. This is just the beginning. These guys believed in Polymarket before anyone else could. CSE grad, Dejan Ek. Naval Ravikant, Tier 1, Balaji, Stani, Tarun Chitra, Calvin, Liu, Naval, Josh Hanna. The Zcash network state.
Pop-up event at the network school and had some great discussions on how privacy is normal. Do you have any highlights from that you want to mention?
Privacy is normal. Zcash is a major technological innovation. Even Sergey Brin.
You've got the 0 to 1 moment for zero knowledge already, and now we are going to go to the 1 to infinity moment. Financial privacy is just as you
And praised it several years ago. Zero knowledge is not just privacy; it's scalability. We've got the 0 to 1 moment for zero knowledge already, and now we're going to go to the 1 to infinity moment, where financial privacy is just it's a human right, and we need to work on that technologically. And we're going to work on that socially as well.
Here with Balaji, we just did the Zcash pop-up event at the.
Already saw the Network State Conference. Always great to exchange ideas. Decentralization. Richard Tang, CEO of Binance. Live stream. Oh my god, 9 hours.
Like we're living in an age. Well, Network State 2025. Okay. So I'm just going to give some quick remarks, and we're going to jump right in. Talks are pretty short. We have firesides. We have
Network of hubs like these accelerating.
have the political will to actually do it. I think a lot of times, we shit on banks all the time, but if you think about it, they're essentially another arm of a national government. Right, exactly. And they have to do politics. And if you're employing 350,000 people, or I'm sure banks in China employ millions of people doing all sorts of nonsense, you can't just fire all of them because that's just bad politically. And so even if every CEO of a bank fully believes that the future is Tether, they lose their banking license if they don't employ people. Jobs for the boys.
It's funny you say that because it is absolutely true that they're arms of the government, because something I learned in crypto was that the fiat banks, the two most important employees besides CEO were the CFO and the chief legal officer. Whereas at a tech company, it's like the CTO or the lead of product, right? The lead designer, because you have to build up the product from scratch, whereas they kind of inherit a license and they can just charge whatever they want for it as long as it's legal, right? Like they can chisel people on ATM fees and all those other kinds of fees, right? So it's a completely different psychology where their value prop comes from the government license, and now suddenly with stablecoins, everybody has that license. So that's like this enormous dislocative thing that reminds me of when, if only a few newspaper companies own trucks and printing presses, and so then suddenly everybody got a computer and a smartphone, and there's this huge shift into social media. So that's like about to happen, I think, with stablecoins. Maybe you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, I guess, obviously in the US context, everyone's really focused on, stablecoins in the US because you have Circle and Tether and all those sorts of things. I think access to banking system.
Talking here because I think the ideas in my book actually started to coalesce in a talk I had walking through Singapore a year ago with Balaji.
With apologies to René Descartes, thinking is just not.
We're talking with governments
to.
And a modern day network of network cities would be able to do that. And so the other thing about network cities is cities in Belgium, right? And so that was the Hanseatic League. And so they famously punished the city of Bruges in Belgium for blocking their trade. And a modern day network of network cities would be able to do that. And so the other thing about network cities is they could have free movement of people, capital, and everything like that between them. So you imagine 100 different Hong Kong type of cities around the world where if you live in one, you can just freely move to all the other. But mobility will be restricted, population mobility will be restricted between the city and the mainland. And so I actually don't know if that was just a mistake, someone put 5 minutes, or actually have the full 10 minutes that I was supposed to have. But all right, we'll just do 5 more minutes. All right, yay. Okay, so basically, the problem with a network state, as Balaji conceived it, it was an interesting idea. The problem is that you've got all these people, a human network dispersed throughout the world, and these people, freedom of movement is determined entirely by the host country. But with these network cities, freedom of movement would be determined by the network itself. So you, as a resident of one of these places, would be free to move to any of the other places. And this would be, for all the people in this room, you can immediately see the sort of attractiveness of this. Also, you could have a movement of capital. So you could have, for example, like a large holding company. Imagine a Temasek-like company that operates. Maybe it could be headquartered in Singapore, maybe on the blockchain if you really want. Somehow, this company could be somewhere, but it would coordinate, sort of like investment and trade finance between all these cities. And so this provides an enormous benefit to the host country. So if you're a country like, suppose you're Indonesia, all right, you have one of these. You put an island, and you're like, okay, this island is autonomous. It's technically part of Indonesia, but anyone from any of these other cities around the world can move there. They just can't move to the rest of Indonesia unless we give our say-so. Okay, so you do that, and then this city can route FDI. It can route, like investment in like manufacturing, real estate, anything, startups through that city, just as Hong Kong has done to China for many, many years. And then if you live in that city, you have to apply to move to the rest of Indonesia, but you can freely automatically move to any of the other cities in Brazil, in Europe, and anywhere else that they are around the world. And so essentially what this does, this creates a new kind of state. Okay, it would be a true network state. Just one network state. I think Balaji originally envisioned multiple network states functioning sort of like these different overlapping communities, but this would be one network state. It would be a network of all these cities around the world. But it would be an incredibly powerful network state, and other human networks of the type that I think Balaji envisioned could exist within this network. They could exist within this network of cities because altogether, Hong Kong has, I don't remember, 7 million people or something, or 5 million thereabouts. If you had, say 30 of these, right? You've got over 100 million people. That's a large-sized state globally. And so lots and lots of different human networks can exist within that state, okay? And so this one network state would then create the space for many other networks to exist inside it, and public goods are provided at the level of the city-state or by the host country in the case of national defense. And so in one fell swoop, you solve all of these thorny questions, you solve all of these problems of how a network state is supposed to work, right? You solve the problem of who's gonna build the roads, because the city builds roads. You solve the problem of who's gonna build the telecoms and the sewers. And at the same time, you solve the problem of national defense. Not entirely, because you still have the host country can still try to absorb the city-state, and you have to like punish it if it tries to do that. But in terms of other countries attacking it, just randomly attacking you, or piracy, or exercise thought leadership where possible.
Goes on every year, and more. So I want to ask
Some heuristics that distill like a big
jurist and the Alpha City work in Africa that you heard earlier. Now I've been working on this.
Milton Friedman, David Friedman, Patrick.
For 25 years, and that.
For better systems, but they are all on fucking paper. The bottleneck is how to build for 25 years, but we now have answers, charter cities, pop-ups, network states. Wow, this is beautiful. Look at this beautiful sun right now. I just want to capture a quick photo. Oh my god, so beautiful. So beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful. Okay. Parfait, parfait.
That may seem like a long time, but my family has been working towards better societies for almost a century. My grandfather's
Design better policies and advocate for the benefits of freedom, won many battles, ending draft, school choice, EITC, printing money causes inflation but not the war. David Friedman, bad systems make bad rules, so we need better legal systems, designed new political design a new political system. The bottleneck is how to build. It took 25 years, but now we have answers. Charter cities pop up.
First focus was on creating and advocating for better policies. The problem is that legacy states produce an endless stream of bad laws. It's like you're squashing bugs, we need to rewrite the core infrastructure. So my dad dug deeper and created an alternative political system that he felt would consistently produce better laws. Then I come along and see a world with tons of bad systems, but so many ideas about how to make it better. I mean, the 2,000 of you probably have 10,000 ideas. Like hell, I might have 1,000 myself. You know, this is fun stuff. Coming up with the ideas is not hard. It's putting them into practice that's hard and needs to be done.
Multi-generation journey to better governance. Products require users. Progress requires experiments.
So we could never make Google if you just designed algorithms. We had to write code and stand up servers. You can never build a startup society just by designing governance. You have to build something that people want and then learn from them how to make it better. Now, users are critical, but getting to users
AI-based feedback with one's activities so that it will essentially tell you what to do and when to make things better, including your sleep. In terms of regulations, I think buildings should get either by natural light or by artificial light, should ensure that there's enough bright light early in the day and throughout the day, and it's dimmer and darker at night. I mean, I wish that were a law. If I had a magic wand, I would create light cycles that are collaborative with human health.
That was good. That's like the human health zone for living.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I want to do it.
I would just say you're definitely peering into the future on this, and I love that you're parting the veil on it and inviting people in. I'm totally on board. And I don't say that lightly, because a lot of things where people are like, let's build a device, and I'm like, it's just like one more piece. It's not the thing that's really going to move everybody forward, because you're talking about changing the whole community framework around medicine and healthcare. So I'm totally on board.
Amazing. Great. I'm looking forward to working with you. Thanks for coming.
All right, a quick vibe check. Has anybody in here ever vibe coded? Some hands? Can you make some noise if you give it a try? All right. Well, with that, it's how to manage, how to be patient, how to break down ideas, physical embodiment of programming.
Yep.
And he found that when children, what they do is they start thinking like a turtle, like the turtle. It's like, I'm standing here, I want to do a circle, so therefore I need to move steps like that, I need to do a loop like that, and then they're able to learn programming better because of that. And so I think just fun things, home automation things is where I'd start. But I think ultimately, I think with the next generation of startups, AI is this bootstrapping of it, but the next generation of startups after that is making things that were hard to start startups around being able to do it. Like SpaceX creating a platform for space.
I mean, so many space companies now. It's amazing. Elon created that whole category.
I think we need a platform for factories, platform for science. Like you should be able to spin up science experiments from your Repl agents. And so I think really the sky's the limit there, but we'll start probably small.
That's cool. Awesome. So any questions for me?
Questions for you. How do you think programming will play into the network state? I heard one of your employees say they think about the network state as like a Docker image for nuclear.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, we think of what we're doing with Network School as like a template for other startup societies. And ideally, ultimately, I'd love to hit enter and take the bill of materials and have robots lay out the modulars, set up the solar panels, charge it from there, go from there. And so
how possible do you think that is?
It's getting much more achievable. So solar in particular has crossed a certain cost threshold where it's really cheap. And I was never a big solar guy because I thought I was a big nuclear guy, but I've come around to thinking of them both. And actually, a guy who convinced me on this is a guy named Matt Green, who's one of the co-founders of Zcash, actually, which we'll hear from later today. And his point was, he granted all my points about nuclear and base load and solar would be wavy like this. He said, but solar has one huge advantage, which is you just rack and stack it. It's really simple, and nuclear is complicated, and requires permits and so on. And just that alone is
worse is better concept.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. So there's a truth to that, right? Doesn't mean you don't do nuclear, you still do nuclear, because nuclear does scale. But it's a little bit like sandals versus shoes, right? This has a higher fixed cost and a higher payoff. This one just gets started with right away. Essentially, right? So the concept of a house that could run out of battery but is completely off-grid means you could rack and stack it horizontally in sunny environments. And there's so much that comes out of that that means you can just kind of start gridless. And people talk about this forever, but I feel it's technologically suddenly become feasible. Pakistan, African countries have just racked and stacked Chinese solar over the last year. This is an area I'm tracking a lot. We talk about programming in the physical world.
Yeah, it's interesting how we're starting to use some of the same concepts from software in the physical world. Like, I don't know if you can talk about the modular stuff.
So that, I think, is the difference. Community means
to do with a normal CPU, and so proof of work turned out to be rewarding specialization. It rewards professionalized miners who have special equipment,
Each builder needs the other, and they work together. Founders contribute to base by building apps which serve users, provide utility, and provide fees.
But it's way more than that. Like if you're starting a new society, if you only pick one thing, what is the thing that you were going to improve on? What is the ideal Jesse society? What does that look like?
I think putting crypto at the core of the society as sort of the base operating system of society is really the
behavior.
Money to mesh, social network.
We're likely not to act the way that we would normally act and do the things that we would normally do. Because people are watching and they will be watching for all time. This is super important. When we talk about privacy, often we think about it in terms of, people talk about privacy as only if you have something to hide. But privacy is about a freedom of expression, to be able to live fully to who I am and to engage the way that I want. It's about liberty, my ability to choose, my agency, to be able to do the things that I want. Because if it's not private, I will self-censor. And I won't do those things. And I will not be truly who I am. And it's about security. If somebody can see your balance, they can see your transaction history. And guess what? They're aggregating that data with data that's spread all around the web. I just disclosed that I have a son who's now married and I have a daughter. That information is now out there. We do that all the time with social media. We post our pictures, all the metadata associated with them. We don't even think about it. And all of that data is being aggregated along with your financial graph on public blockchains. It's a security problem. So that's why we built Zcash. We built Zcash to be unstoppable private money.
Say, should we go to Asia first or Europe first? You can, because of the way crypto works, where you can fund both the forks and spin them out into their individual independent sort of initiatives and let them fight it out. Because crypto is capital abundant, but it's talent scarce. So what you need is execution. And the fact that tokens allow you to align interests means it's always going to be capital abundant, whether you're in a bear market or a bull market. So that's why it's a network organizational structure. And I'm running up towards the end of this. So
Board to founder relationship. Board to founder relationship. Bonus and
Wrap up quick here.
incentive
The
goals.
hiring process is you will find founder adjacent people, people who like interested in the historical educational aspirations. But also primarily I'm interested in how do you take this new technology and enable solopreneurship. We're all entering a world where it's like a one-person unicorn. But let's say we don't want to build a unicorn. You can build a one-person, $100,000 a month business. Solopreneurship can only exist because of technology, right? You no longer need labor, and labor is terrible. But the real bottleneck is not the history books, it's labor. Finding a good marketer, finding a good designer, finding a good copywriter is borderline impossible.
So this is a big thing. I think AI doesn't take your job. AI lets you do any job.
Yes.
Reasonably well. Yes. Not as good as a specialist, but okay, right?
Yeah.
And,
so instead of managing
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. You can see my shadow in the background. That's pretty cool. Wow, this beautiful sun. Wow.
For people, we see a future where you can manage 4 AI agents to create your solopreneurship journey. I think that's the best application because it relates to money, right? Because you can make money from it. With this AI history thing, I lost $100,000. Okay, I made $0 from it. But you can prove the concept. You think Singapore paid us for this? Zero. I lost $1,500 on this. So in a way, I don't see the monetization from media or religion or history or politics.
But it doesn't have to be direct. You can like lots of things. You can do things where there isn't. I mean, it depends on how long a game you're playing.
How long? Yeah, most people can only play 5 month long
No,
game.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, if you wanted to, for example, take the there's many cultures that are simply not considered by Hollywood, right? Let's say you're the Catalonians, or you want to put the Upanishads into video, or something like that, right? Like there's many different kinds of cultures where this is almost a consumption good, not a production good.
Yes.
They're not building it to resell. They're building it as a way of kind of communicating their culture. And
Yes, yes. Yeah, somebody has to pay for it. I think most of the time it'll be governments. Catalonia, Spanish government should pay for a recreation of the Spanish history. And I do not know why most governments are not jumping on this to recreate their history, or even religious organizations. So I think that's a big opportunity. The one thing I think about a lot about is basically enabling solopreneurship. So that's really where 80% of my attention is now, which is can we build people for AI agents, marketing?
Break from the internet,
yes.
right? And so there's something to that with the rebundling into the physical world. So what's the Ranveer community going to be like? What's the Ranveer village going to be like?
It's definitely going to be based on like what people know India for. So lots of yoga, lots of meditation.
That's cool.
Yeah, lots of fitness. Yeah. Content creation as a career is kind of like a sport. You've got to know your own strengths and you've got to play to those strengths. That's the only way you survive. So I know that, I mean, there's more to my personality than just yoga and meditation, but because I'm Indian, it's always going to be a part of it.
Sure.
People associate tech and yoga and meditation with Indians.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
so
that's
what
the first things.
look.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Even if I'm a much cooler guy than that.
That's fine. I mean, yoga and meditation are great, actually. So Ranveer Network State is yoga, meditation, Ranveer Star Society, yoga, meditation.
Okay, you know, a bit
healthy
of
diet. Actually, do you have the traditional Indian diet, or do you have a? I really want to see someone do a modern, healthy Indian diet that kind of tastes like the Indian diet, but is healthy, and it's not all, you know, idlis and
Yeah, I think that kind of knowledge is going to make it to the world stage. Bit of a history lesson, but one of the narratives we get in India about Indian history is that over the last 1,000 years, the country was invaded a lot. But before that, we used to be a bit of a knowledge capital for the world. For the rest of Asia as well, it was Indian culture and Chinese culture which really kind of hoarded knowledge, preserved it, and grew from it. I think we're going back there eventually. So I know that the Indian government wants to welcome the whole world to India for spiritual studies, for ancient Indian studies. And we have people like Dr. Andrew Huberman, Brian Johnson talking about things like yoga. So I think that there's a lot that Indian culture will give the world, but they need a young, cute face to like sell. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. So I think the Ranveer village or the Ranveer Sharp site would be very interesting. And I think I'd love to come. I mean, there's actually quite a few now of these private cities type things within India itself, right? Like Andor and a few others. Have you been to any of these? What I'm talking about?
It's just starting out.
Just starting, yeah.
Just starting out. But there's this one particular city called Auroville.
Auroville, right? Akshay went there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's got expats from all over the world, and that city was originally built with this exact idea. It hasn't sustained because the mistake that.
What was the theme? Tell people what the theme was. It was around yoga and meditation, but didn't sustain. No.
So honestly, the goal was to carry out scientific research on all these spiritual concepts that you read about, like all these mystical concepts. And they have their own currency and it's a self-sustaining government. So if you're a citizen of Auroville, the government takes care of you. But the place they made a mistake was that they didn't encourage a culture of startups and of hard work. So the newer generations have everything paid for, and they have nothing to work towards.
How did Auroville become rich enough that the newer generations have something to be paid for?
Sorry?
How did Auroville become, like, if the newer generations are lazy, perhaps, but how did it actually have enough money if no one was working hard to even make it? Usually there's at least one hardworking person and the third or fourth generation spends it down.
I know that they have really high taxes if you're running a business from Auroville. The quality of life is through the roof. Lots of nature, good weather, very clean, all that. But there's only a few people who build businesses out of there, and those businesses are taxed very heavily, and they pay for the rest of the community.
I see.
So they want more businesses to come up, but no one's been able to really scale too much.
So, I see.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to learn from that. Like,
That's very interesting. I didn't know. Hey, what is this? Auroville. City of Dawn. City the Lobe. Experimental Township. Developed industry mostly in the state of Tamil Nadu. Some parts in the Union Territory, Puducherry. Founded in 1968. Designed by architect Roger Enger. Etymology. Dawn. Additionally named after Sri Aurobindo. History. Greetings from Auroville. To all men of goodwill are invited to Auroville. All those who thirst for progress and aspire to a higher and truer life wants a universal town where men and women of all countries will be able to live in peace and progressive harmony above all creeds, all politics, and all nationalities. The purpose of Auroville is to realize human unity. Inauguration. Nobody in particular Auroville belongs to humanity as a whole, but to live in Auroville, one must be willing servitor of the divine consciousness. Auroville will be the place of an unending education of constant progress and a youth that never ages. Orwell wants to be the bridge between the past and the future, taking advantage of all discoveries from without and from within. Orwell will boldly spring toward future realizations. Orwell will be a side of material and spiritual researches for a living embodiment of an actual human unity. Legal status. Whoa. Government of India passed the Orwell Emergency Provision Act. Orwell took over the city's management. The change was initiated after Mira Al-Fasa died in 1973. And serious fissures developed between the society and the city's residents in its day-to-day management. Residents appealed to Indira Gandhi, then Prime Minister of India, for intervention. Society challenged the government's action. Supreme Court of India, the final verdict, upheld the constitutional validity of the government's action and intervention. After the verdict, a need was felt to make a lasting arrangement for the long-term management. The city's representative, along with Kivat Joshi, then education advisor for the Human Government, met for consultations. Later that year, Orwell Foundation Act was passed by the Indian Parliament. Interesting. Society and population. 400 individuals from 20 countries reside in the township. Number rose to 2,000 individuals from 40 countries. 2,800 residents. 54 countries, around 50% from India, and almost 20% from both France and Germany. The community has had many residential housing clusters with Tamil, English, French, and Sanskrit names like Aspiration, Arati, La Ferme, Aura Model, and Isayambalam demographics. Very interesting, very interesting. What is this? Where mainly Tamil people reside. Instead of paper and coin currency, residents are given account numbers to connect to their central account. Visitors are requested to get a temporary account and an Oro card, a special debit card for its citizens. Monthly contribution to the community. Only for a small amount of Orwell's budget is mainly formed by contributors from Orwell's commercial units, which contribute 33% of their profits. Child abuse investigation. Controversial development plans. Whoa, began demolishing the Orwell Youth Center, uprooting the surrounding trees with the Hello Earth movers. 900 trees were bulldozed across 67 acres in Orwell. Internal petition signed by more than 500 residents requested postponement of the development work on the Crown Road right-of-way. Illegal clearing of forest by the foundation led the Southern Bench of India to order an interim stay on felling of trees. Proper township plan and apply for environmental clearance. Not to proceed with further construction in the project area with the exception of it is the completion of Crown Road. One of the modern India's greatest sages. Humanity's aspiration for peace and goodwill. Unique symbol of human unity. Indian society is fundamentally diverse. It has fostered dialogue and philosophic tradition. Showcases this ancient Indian tradition to the world by bringing together global diversity. Very interesting.
Like if, this dream of actually creating new cities and new countries is the goal, you need to see the places that have failed in the last 100 years
Absolutely.
as well,
Yep.
why they failed.
Yeah, no, there's a whole graveyard. I mean, the thing is, there's a whole graveyard of failed attempts and actually successful attempts because you can look at, for example, Oneida in northern New York, or actually really much of the US was basically successful startup sites. Go ahead.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, please, yeah, of course.
How do you visualize your old age? Like
My
you're
old age?
really old, and I think this is something a lot of people in the audience are thinking about as well.
Me? My old age?
What do you want your 70s and 80s to be like? When
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I think maybe we'll get Ozempic for aging by then. I mean, 30 years, 40 years, things are moving fast. That's one answer. That's a serious answer, right?
Go on.
The second answer is to hopefully contribute towards
getting competitive governance and so on out there. So I think if we can get a diplomatically recognized network state, if we can kind of get some of these concepts like techno-democracy that I've thought out there, then I'll feel like I spiked the football and at least, I handed the torch down. And maybe the next person, my Twitter bio for a long time used to be, and it still kind of is, at least in my head, infinite frontier, immutable money, eternal life. And that can be, that can be understood, I don't know, okay, great, thanks, yeah, sure. So what does that mean? That means, like, both literally and metaphorically, infinite frontier is like getting to space, getting to Mars, expanding into the galaxy, but it's also like the mathematical frontier, the scientific frontier. Immutable money is, obvious like Bitcoin, and then eternal life is actually understanding ourselves, longevity, the cell, and so on and so forth. Because there's clearly something regenerative in us where you have a child, or you have if someone bears a child, then that is young again, right? So clearly there's some regenerative aspect. That's what stem cells are all about. So those are kind of two paths, like, escape velocity, and okay, if I don't make it, then baton, handoff. That's what I was kind of thinking about it.
Are you getting happier with time?
The thing is, if you get too happy, you get content, right? I'm not unhappy. You see the big difference in you love all this like spiritual blah 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 stuff, and which is great.
I ask you these questions because you're by far the most fascinating mind I've had on my show.
Okay, well I appreciate that. I appreciate you too.
And every time I ask him something about himself, he'll talk about a larger idea about the world.
Well, but that's true because I don't think that. I mean, like, this whole thing is actually it's meant to be minimum necessary biology. Okay, I just want. Like one big part, it's meant to be minimum necessary biology. Okay, I just want to like one big part of me just wants to. There's this book called The Princeton Companion to Mathematics, right? Which is like just about. There's also the applied math version of it. I love this book. It's such a great book. You can just kind of flip through it, do it. And the significant piece of me just wants to sit and do. Just like you want to kind of hang up the cleats and sort of take a break. I just want to kind of sit and do math. That's what I did for the first 30 years of life, right? But I am kind of a reluctant, whatever you might call it, right? Scientist, founder, blah blah blah. Because I think it has to be done. It's kind of like the someone is wrong on the internet phenomenon. Like you see that there's a wrong statement in a comment thread, and you hope someone else will correct it, and no one is coming to correct it. So you're like, it falls to me, and you just have to go and type to correct. So in like the same, I'm like, okay, who else is going to do competitive governance? Come on, is someone going to do it? Oh, okay, all right, we got it. Once more into the breach. Math, you'll have to wait till tomorrow, right? And that's kind of, that's how I feel. So anyway.
That's great. It's just always great hearing your voice, hearing your thoughts. That's like all of us.
Okay, good. Well, I'm glad I'm entertaining, and but. Anyways, okay, keep going. It's your interview if you want to go. A few more thoughts, yeah.
My thoughts?
Yeah.
About anything?
Yeah, sure, go.
About anything. I'll probably throw the ball back at you, but
okay,
what I will share, I think we have about like 5 or 6 minutes left.
Yeah.
I think long-term media career is very similar to VC. Got to work with agility. We get very quick feedback because we got to release so much content. You got to study your comment sections inside out. And effectively, after a point, I think you're paid to just predict where human society is going over the next 1 year. It used to be over the next 3 or 4 year period. Like we were able to predict where things are going over the next 3 or 4 years. But honestly, AI's made it really difficult. And now we're only able to kind of predict what's going to happen over the next 6 months. I think by this time next year, there's going to be some fantastic agentic AI softwares. That Nats was talking so much about it. I think that's going to become a commonality for every content creator. And I strongly believe that the world of fiction in media, so movies, television shows, OTT, Netflix, etc., that's going to get democratized. I think that students, teenagers are going to be creating films. And I genuinely believe that the film world all over the world is going to get shaken up. That's going to be the next shake-up. And that's what we're all working towards. So I know a bunch of content creators in India, and Indian content creators are extremely intelligent. They're just not exposed to the world yet. I think that's also changing. But everyone's working on creating these fiction studios that will eventually compete with Warner Brothers. And
So here's my view on that. I think that, it is both possible, maybe even likely, but it's possible that there's some breakthrough in AI that allows for longer context. And people will argue with me on this all the time, but my view is because they'll post benchmarks and show AI crushing benchmarks. But my view is that over the last year to 2 years, we've seen a sigmoiding of the model quality. It hasn't been the same leaps and bounds improvement. And there's hedonic adjustments very quickly. You get used to something amazing very quickly and you take it for granted, right? But I think that I don't know if we're going to get long-form Hollywood movies from a prompt kind of thing. I think they'll feel very generic. There's sort of a necessary complexity that seems to have to come in through the prompt. And that's why the screenwriter was actually, this was the most non-obvious thing I learned, by the way, when doing content. I once had something which I wanted filmed, and I hired a cinematographer and a crew and what have you. And the shots they produced looked amazing. They turned like a normal room into like almost like a spaceship kind of thing with lighting and their vocabulary around lighting, hard lighting, soft lighting, this, that. They're very, very sophisticated. Bokeh, all these kinds of words I didn't know at the time. And but then I looked at the final cut and it was all gibberish. And I realized, I can't delegate the screenwriting part. Actually, the part I thought was hard, which was making it look very professional, is actually relatively easy. The part I thought was easy, which is writing the screenplay, is the part that's actually relatively hard.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that is actually still the bottleneck for a lot of these stories, as opposed to the special effects and so on. Let me know your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, writing is one thing that can never be replaced because, again, great writing always reflects where human society is at. Great cinema, great fiction is always a reflection of what's happening in the world right now.
Paul Graham has this good line, which is writing is thinking. And if you haven't really got a crisp in your head, then you find it hard to write. And it's not about making it sound flowery. Sometimes you can do it with the second pass, but the first pass is just getting the bullets out and organizing the thinking. This is why, I think a very interesting kind of person is a person who writes a long fiction book. They have to, those like mysteries where a detective puts all these faces up on the person who's writing a mystery novel has to do the same thing, because they have to practice very complicated timeline at various levels of resolution, all the way down to the sentence, but up to the 500-word thing, right? That type of thing feels like the type of thing AI doesn't do that well right now, at least.
Yeah, maybe animated AI?
Well, I think the shorter it is, the better AI will do with it, because I think the long...
There's Alexander.
Which I call the plus 100 and the minus 100 version. The plus 100 version is just, we need jurisdictions that are built for self-driving cars from the beginning, that are built for biotech innovation, for what's called the low-altitude economy. Like you would architect a city completely differently if self-driving cars existed from the beginning. Like all the garages would be hidden, and the whole thing would look walkable on the surface, right? So, LA was built around the car. What would the LA of the self-driving car be? It would look completely different, right? So that kind of premise influences all aspects of architecture. So simply just something like that, where you can get legal innovation, that's what I call the plus 100 version, and you can be in favor of society negotiation just based on that. Now, if you add to that what I call the minus 100 version, which is Dalio, Turchin, Fourth Turning, Elon, everybody who has forecasted, I think correctly, that essentially, there's going to be we're kind of already in the middle of a sovereign debt crisis for Western governments. Now that becomes even more urgent. It's both the extreme plus and the extreme minus. It's like a lot of existing societies are going to have big problems, and there's a lot of potential technologically and otherwise in new ones. So that goes to a plus 200. Plus 100 minus 100 is plus 200, right? So you can have a plus 100 view, or the plus 100 minus 100 is a plus 200 view. That's my view.
Hi, Balaji. First of all, thank you so much, and congrats on putting such a high-quality event. It's really, I think, the event I felt I've learned the most in this whole week, so thank you very much. I'm going to put an outlandish question out there. Assuming that, network states growing, and the not only the location, but the people are getting more adopted, and it's growing, let's say it's growing exponentially, right? What happens when it becomes, let's say, comparable to Singapore in terms of size? And what happens in terms of governance, and if you have some different views with the Singaporean government in terms of legislation, how do you think that clash works out, and how would you extrapolate it to other network states that could be colliding with different countries?
Yeah, so the first thing I'd say is render under Caesar what is Caesar's, right? Like abide by the laws of every country in which you're domiciled. That's number one. Minimize clashes. Because the thing is, honestly, relatively few things, you have to pick your battles. There's relatively few things where you really need to fight the government over, okay? In my view. You don't, for example, I'll give you an example. The Free State Project, which I'm sympathetic to at a macro level. They had a bunch of libertarians move to New Hampshire. And one of the first things one of the guys did is, of all the things they decided to spend their political capital, time, energy on, was fighting seatbelt laws. Okay, so that's an example of not picking your battles. It's a complete avoidable clash, right? If the, which was the guy who talks about, he's from The Daily Show, Ronnie Chang. Okay, look up Ronnie Chang on Singapore caning. Okay, and he's like, oh my God, imagine if you were to come to Singapore and spit gum on the floor. He's like, well, don't do that. Yes, that's not allowed in this jurisdiction. So just abide by those reasonable laws, right? And then when it's unreasonable, then figure out how to either work with the system or exit the system, and then do it somewhere else, and then rebalance the network state towards that other state, right? How many people are in one? I mean, it depends. Everyone is going to have a different goal. I mean, in theory, you could. Hilton, for example, has 1 million beds worldwide, right? That's like 8,000 properties, 1 million beds. That shows that, quote, a network state is logistically possible already, right? WhatsApp has 3 billion users. In theory, they could all be, they could be digitally coordinated. So I don't think there's any logistical cap. It's just about what you'd want to do in a given community. Let me go to the next person. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maria Bim. I'm
Hi,
from
Maria.
Spain, so whoever wants to discuss Spain and Catalonia, I'm here
Okay.
to do it.
Yin and yang can be a balance. And so I think there's something there. Okay, thank you.
About intellectual.
A little closer to.
Okay, sure. So this question is about the future of intellectual property rights due to the use of AI. So nowadays we see a lot of IP.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
The network school.
This was crazy, yeah. Okay. Bayes, having this in mind, Bayes network state. There's Jesse Pollock here. There's Sumeda. Supporting those who actually ship. So big idea from how to improve and implement the concept of network state. This was an interesting idea for a new global Hanseatic League. What exactly drove hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian students to take up arms and risk being blown to bits in Russian artillery barrages rather than submit to Russian rule? Surely it wasn't disagreement with Putin on property tax regimes now. Something else is at work. Later, has delocalized many of humans' social interactions in the past. Almost all of the people you would know would be in your close geographical vicinity. Perhaps you might feel connection with some broader international concept Christendom. Or maybe you might maintain some networks or long-distance relationships. But almost everything you did, everyone you know would be governed by physical proximity. A basic fact of human life. Delocalized, like-minded individuals, strung out across the globe. Anime fandom, artisans living in Anglosphere, bunch of wisecracking tech people on Twitter. What is that? Know your meme, teapot, post-rat. Okay, know your meme. I wrote a post contrasting these vertical communities with traditional horizontal communities. I'm mused about how the two might conflict. Envisions online communities turning into something resembling a nation state. Groups of like-minded people strung out over a vast distance, he argued, could band people together to provide services like education, insurance, healthcare, private dispute resolution, and so on. Business networks providing preferential financing and business deals, perhaps using blockchains to obviate the need for local codes and banks. Property in various locations, housing, conference centers, ranches, whatever. Members of a network state can gather. Speculates that network state could conduct independent foreign policy, negotiating with traditional nation states using the leverage of the global network to extract concessions of limited sovereignty. Purely of people who you resonate with. National defense, courts and laws, police and public society, firefighting, infrastructure, scientific research, public parks, so on. But if network state people didn't pay enough taxes to maintain an army, the places they live in might be prone to getting overrun and conquered. Nobody's going to want them for a neighbor. Can't just pick up and move, or do want to since they're immemorial. People have fought for the land. The kind of people who will fight and die for the land will be very mad at network state types who enjoy the fruits of peace when times are good, but who abandon the neighbors to their fate when things got rough. They naturally conflict with traditional nation states. Privilege for themselves. In the original sense of the word, a system of private laws that only applies to them and not their neighbors. Always spur resentment. Backlash in Europe and the Anglosphere against the creeping recognition of Sharia law. A specific nation state and a specific city will also naturally resent neighbors who don't put in their fair share, who seem ready to skip down at a moment's notice. Rootless cosmopolitans with all of the negative baggage that designation has traditionally created. Work in theory. Oh, okay. It doesn't end over here. But they have little to offer to traditional states. Parasitic on existing forms of human organization. Major advantage in terms of organized violence. If network states can offer some kind of benefits to traditional states, they'll eventually find themselves violently rejected. Additional elements. So after thinking about the problem, here's what I came up with. Oh, very interesting. Now I want to find this talk.
And it includes the entire current radius of what they call Iskandar Malaysia. It includes Pengaran, and it includes...
Stay in touch and brainstorm together.
For sure, very interesting ideas over here. Noah Smith. What is economics? Post about rabbits. This was interesting, yes. Okay, I'll do a quick check over here. 1 hour 44 minutes, okay. All right. We're good.
We are at 3. On the enterprise side, we are maybe at a 0.25 at best. Right? So there's a huge market ahead that's massive and growing on the data side. So we're very excited about that. The thing that we've discovered, and this is one way in which we are different from like the traditional data labeling companies like the ones that you mentioned, is we also work with enterprises to help them take advantage of AGI. And for enterprises, they don't need just data. They need somebody to help them build end-to-end AI systems in the first mile and the last mile. I think that's going to be an even bigger market potentially that we are perfectly positioned to. I think of it a little bit like we're working with the Formula 1 teams in the Frontier AI labs, but there's the car companies where there's a trickle-down effect of some of this technology. Like we're now building RL-gyms for giant financial institutions as well, right? And that's a massive market. Like if you look at the services market, it's $1 trillion market, right? And we're talking about $30 trillion of knowledge work that's about to be automated. And enterprises need all the help they can get to not just build the right models, but to build the right systems around these models to automate workflows. So I think like Turing will probably replace companies like McKinsey, Bain, BCG, and every service company.
Very interesting. Sora. Jesus. Ornage. D'or. Farfelu. C'est quoi Farfelu? Farfetch, mais révélatrice de la maturité du vidéo génératif. Accélère. Barely AI. I'm assembling a SOAR team.
Do that. No, but you also want the group to be as small as possible. Right. So there are some problems that we're working on around the company where like you can just have more people work on them, and even if the marginal productivity per person declines, you can just keep on scaling the net productivity of the effort. Our feed and ads recommendation is an interesting example of this, where a lot of people are just testing different improvements to the systems, and if one guy sitting next to you, if that guy's experiments don't work that well, it doesn't necessarily slow you down that much. But I think building these language models.
Look at the software. Meta Software was, he said, building it himself like a grip science project, and the best to have the smallest group of people who can fit the whole thing in their head at once. So the investment for each hire
is not that way, right? It's a small group effort. You want the smallest group of people that can keep the whole thing in their head and do the best work that they can. So each seat on that boat is incredibly precious and in high demand. You also don't want a lot of layers of hierarchy, because when someone gets into management, their technical skills kind of start decaying pretty quickly. Even if they were an IC, researcher a few months ago, now if they're spending all their time kind of helping to manage, then after 6 months, a year, they might be less in the technical details than they were before. So I think that there's this huge premium on just having a relatively small, extremely talent-dense effort that is organized to be quite flat.
And you're very hands-on with this team.
Well, yeah, in the sense that, I'm not like an AI scientist, but the thing that
I'm sitting near you. It's clear that this is like the priority.
So the thing that I'm focused on is, one, getting the very best people in the world to join the team. So I've spent a lot of time just meeting all of the top researchers and folks around the field and getting a sense for who I think would be good here and who might be at a point in their career where we can give them a better opportunity. That's one piece. Another.
What is the package of Andrew Tulak for Meta? $1.5 billion over the next, or at least 6 years. Salary, lot of signing bonuses, extensive stock rewards. Possible $250 million payout in the first year alone. Metrics and Meta's future stock price making the full figure theoretical rather than guaranteed. Wow. Highest triggers with a spokesperson calling the headline number inaccurate, ridiculous, emphasizing the composition is highly variable and conditional. Largest individual recruiting packages in the history of technology, highlighting the fierce competition among tech giants for top AI talent. Considered a major coup in the ongoing AI arms race between Meta, OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic.
Other thing that I'm very focused on is making sure that we have significantly higher compute per researcher than any other lab, which I think we are just way higher on compute per researcher than any other lab today. And as the founder and CEO, and because we have a strong business model that can support this, and we make a lot of profit.
A decent amount,
yeah. It's a reasonable amount.
You can just call up Jensen and be like, more GPUs, please. It's not that simple.
It's not that simple. And I normally text him with my glasses, but
I'll text him with my glasses. Okay. How about Meta's new glasses on superintelligence? You turned on $1.5 billion offer from Zuck to join Meta's AI efforts. He resigned and joined Meta. Wow. AI researcher Andrew Tulloch announced his departure to employees in a message on Friday. Thinking Machine last worker's confirmed departure. Decided to pursue a different path for personal reasons. Personal reasons. Composition package. Inaccurate and ridiculous. OpenAI and Facebook's AI research group. Heads show Meta. This is crazy. Yeah, if you are amazing, they want you. If you're amazing, they want you. If you are somewhere else, it's very hard to compete now. If you're good, they will get you. If you are good, they will catch you. Very interesting.
No, there's literally Jesus Christ right in the water. Pool already. He's not even swimming. Look at all this. 7.6
That's a world record. And they're off.
Oh my
Jesus Christ.
No, there's literally Jesus Christ
He's
right in
halfway
the
down the
water.
pool already. He's not even swimming.
Look at all
That's
this.
in the wall now.
7.6
That's a world
seconds.
record.
I liked how he magically changes lanes too. It's amazing. Another pure future A autonome. Eric Gleeman, Ramdon MIT, storytelling Prithvi, Sweden largest media proposition in Prithvi Finance B2B, the faster memorable branding on media. Patrick Casey, lecture Quasi, Melville Shakespeare, colis au bradage, fille de lecture Helien, mobilité Richardel, exemple d'apprentissage transféré entre littérature et leadership strategy. Tu peux juste faire des choses. Rappel simple mais puissant. New Industrials. La croissance, rien ne se passe. Créer de l'alpha pour ceux qui agissent. Signalement modal pour builders. C'est intéressant. New Industrials. So you offshored all your supply chains because McKinsey told you to, right? Then you let lawyers and activists slow down deployment of factories, mining, and power plants, making what should take 3 to 6 months take 3 to 6 years. Then you let lawyers and activists slow down deployment of factories, mining, and power plants. Exactly. And now you're complaining we don't have enough industrial capacity. Yes. Dual policy outcomes in DC. Very cool. The belief that nothing ever happens is just extra alpha for people who act on the reality that you can just do things. When Americans see a problem, we do something about it. Industrial problems abound. We and many of you are doing something about it. The belief that nothing ever happens is just extra alpha for people who act on the reality that you can just do things. The logo is pretty sick. It's pretty sick. A very, very NAIA, New American Industrial Alliance. Very, very sick. We back the builders. Yes, we check them out. Trade and workforce, government, contracting, and procurement. Our members: Atomic, Palantir, Hadrian, Rebuild, Gecko. Exactement. Curiosité comme ressource renouvelable. C'est sur la curiosité comme seul renouvelable individuel. Bon rappel pour créateur chercheur d'opportunités. Copier et coller. Capex. Finish every day and be done with it. For manners and for wise living, it is a wise to remember. You have done what you could. Some blunders and absurdities no doubt crept in. Forget them as soon as you can. Tomorrow is a new day. You shall begin it well and serenely, and with too high a spirit to be cumbered with your old nonsense this day, for all that is good and fair. It is too dear, and with its hopes and invitations, to waste a moment on the rotten yesterdays. Wow. Reshaping how to think. The Japanese call it Sundoku Nassim Taleb, an anti-library. It's a delightful habit of acquiring books faster than you can read them. I'm adding 300 plus books to my collection every year. Check out my latest editions and why I couldn't resist it. Brandon Myth, Jensen Huang, Thinking Machine. NVIDIA, the world's most coveted microchip. Why nothing works? Who will progress? Wow. Wow. Who will progress and how to bring it back? About the architecture of power, the forces that strive us from getting things done, and how we can restore confidence in democratically elected government. The best book to date on biggest political issue that nobody's talking about. Interesting. Buy every book published by Stripe Press. The Scaling Era. Patrick Casey. They learn what great actually is, and that just permanently changed their sense for what their own standard for their work ought to be. Apprentice to Genius. Wow. The Making of Scientific Dynasty. Wow. Key takeaways of the book Apprentice to Genius. Often emerge from tight-end mentorship chains, demonstrating the importance of the master-apprentice relationship in shaping careers and discoveries in biomedical science. Bernard Brody, Julius Axelrod, Solomon Schneider, and Candice Bird, whose mentorships led to Nobel Prize-winning neuroscience discoveries. Scientific style, unwritten lab techniques, and problem-solving approaches are often passed from mentor to apprentice, guiding the next generation in ways formal training cannot. Human side of scientific research. The story reveals the competitive, political, and sometimes egotistical nature of science, with mentors exerting strong influence and apprentices sometimes feeling stifled or overlooked, as in the reprisals between Brody and Axelrod, or the exclusion of Candice Bird from major awards. Wow. Experiments and their failures are shared experiences, fueling both collaboration and career-defining conflicts. Groundbreaking discoveries. The chain of mentorship led to discoveries such as the metabolism of drugs like Tylenol, enzyme systems in the liver, mechanisms of neurotransmitter release and reuptake, and the identification of brain receptors, notably the opiate receptor. These advances elevated American biomedical research globally and shaped entire scientific disciplines. Scientific breakthroughs arise not just from individual talent, but through sustained mentorship and social networks. The mentor-apprentice system, rare outside of science, remains vital for innovation, with personal style, practical knowledge, and experimental know-how transmitted more effectively than by formal education and low limitation critiques. Funding, institutional status, and scientific opportunity are also crucial, yet less emphasized in the narrative. Some sections are criticized for overemphasizing scientific style at the expense of systemic factors like access to resource and selection bias and training top scientists. Really cool. If we could truly improve how we talk to each other, isn't that the root of solving most issues? Narratives shape everything. Politics, perception, possibility. The myth of experience. The first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. Why we learn the long lessons and ways to correct them. How progress ends. Progress depends on heroic individuals, then on the texture of connections through which knowledge circulates. And the fate of nations. Progress depends less on heroic individuals than on the texture of connections through which knowledge circulates. The medium is still the message. saw our smartphone addiction and social media mess coming 60 years ago. With everything happening now, his ideas are exactly what we need to make sense of the digital age. The medium is still the message. The medium is still the message. Key takeaways of the book, The Medium. Is still the message. Emphasizing on communication in today's digital society are shaped fundamentally by the characteristics of the medium and not just their content. Medium shapes perception. Unique context for engagement or understanding. Content adapts to the medium. Effective communication adapts content to suit the strengths and limitations of the chosen platform. Brief and visual formats excel on Instagram or TikTok, while in-depth analysis fits better in podcasts or long-form articles. Context creation and relevance. In modern digital environments, communicators must create context for their messages, not just deliver information. The user's experience, shaped by interface, device, and social environment, influences what is understood and felt. Attention, interaction, interactive, and engaging mediums like live streams or polls foster deeper involvement, affecting how users perceive and respond to the message. Mediums that compete for attention require tailored approaches to capture and hold interest. Societal shifts, new technologies alter how people connect, learn, and share, driving changes in culture and social norms. The shift from print to TV to digital communication continues to reshape individual and collective behavior, consistent branding across mediums. Berkshire Hathaway. The ease with which you can be convinced of something is based on how much you want to be convinced of it. So always subtract your desire to believe from the more you want to believe something, the more convincing the evidence for it will seem. So your brain is quietly tipping the scales behind the scenes, like a judge who's already picked the winner and just looking for plausible excuse. Confirmation bias. Service being provided to you, and really it's more like a gym membership. The institutional model treats learning as service being provided to you, when really it's more like a gym membership. Voluntary mind principle. All learning requires an active choice on the part of the learner. This is why autodidacts often outperform students in formal education, why kids can memorize every Pokemon but forget their timetables, why someone can spend 4 years getting a degree and retain almost nothing. In the end, the only renewable resource is curiosity. In the end, the only renewable resource is curiosity. The quantity of civilization is measured by the quality of imagination. Wow. Civilization is a function of what people can imagine and then bring into being. Bring into being. The quantity of civilization is measured by the quality of imagination. Quality of imagination. Retirement keys. Technique pratique des personnes internes pour dépasser des blocages identitaires, accéder à des comportements cibles, applicabilité immédiate. Immédiatement social. History and memes. Robin Clinton. Moment historique. Moment CCA chaud lors de l'assassinat de Rabat. Signal mémoire historique, contexte leadership et paix. Adaptabilité. Plus que connaissance. Thèse, upon, pivoter. Stock de savoir statique. Utile pour survive and thrive en techno-IA. Gary Dan, d'accord, c'est le stream.